All right, so we're back. So what I want to do was we're gonna make some changes to our app. We're gonna have the user being able to, well, enter their own data or like upload their own data files. And I want to store them locally, and then I want to read them every time the user wants to read their data. So they'll use the drop-down menu. The drop-down menu will update where they choose their data sets, and their data will be in there. So in my projects folder, like this, I want a place to put my data. So I just say data. That's where I'm going to put my data, right? And I want to store the data, but so all the user data that's going to be put into my app will be stored here. Then they can log off and they can come back and they can still have the data still stored. So I also want some like example data, and we're just going to use the empty cars, the iris, and the air quality data. So first of all, I just want to write these into my folder, my data folder. So easy enough. I've actually already done this. I just use the for loop, and then I write these each of the data files or the data sets and well, easy enough. And you can just use this code, or you can do it in your way if you want to. But it's just run it and it's over. So we look here. All right, we got all the data that we need. If you look at them, it looks right. Fine. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to remove, or we're not going to use this anymore, because now we don't want to store the data, or don't want to use the data that's already stored in the RAM. We want to like dynamically get the data that's hidden or is like stored in our data folder. So I'll remove this, and actually I just wanted this to list the files that are in my data folder. So that is what do you call dot? So I use this dot notation. So it's just means from where you are right now, and where I am right now is my project folder, and in there I have a data folder, right? So let's see if this works. Yes, I get the. So you can see down here, I get the three data sets that are present, and so that's our data list now. So now that means our when we look at our data selection input, or the drop-down menu, we really don't have any names anymore for our data list. Like if I run this, that's our data list. If I say names now, probably going to be an error. Well, it's null. We don't have any names. So we only want a data list like this. So now they're going to be choosing which file they want. So they can choose air quality, and then the file extension, or the iris taste, and or the empty cars. And yeah, I use the tab separated values. You can use whatever you want. I just like tab separated values for simplicity's sake. So I think I want a reactive here that reads this data every time. That reads the data that the user chooses every time he selects one here, right? So I'm just going to call it selected. It's going to be a reactive. Oops, whoops. And the name. No, it's not name. So what I want to read the data. Well, so I used before when I wrote the tables, I used write table. Now I'm just going to use read table. Read table, and so where is the data? Well, we have to point it to this one, but we can't just put this straight in here. We need the whole path, right? So we need like this and data, and actually even more than this. We need everything before this, actually, or we don't actually need that. But never mind. We just at least need the dot slash data. So what we're gonna do is paste the string together with this. So we're gonna say paste 0. All right. So this just means take some string and paste it to another string. So we say from where I am now, go into data folder, and then then we're going to find the data set that the user selected. So that was, what is it? It was data select. And then, no, we already have an extension. It's very important to provide an extension, but the data list already has the file extension here. So it's not needed. So this should now, every time we go, every time the user will be changing his data sets, this selected will fire and it will read the data set that he selected. Good. So now we want to update everything else, right? So You want the names, you don't want the names of the data list, you want the names of our selected data. So easy enough, we'll do this. Any other places, and oh yeah, and we also of course want to change what data is here. So this is, yeah, go into the column of just our selected data, right? I think so. So now we're just changing all the code in our app, because well, when you do one change, you have to change it everywhere else. That's just how programming works. It can be a pain in the ass, but if you are methodical and thoughtful about your changes, it can be very easy. Hopefully this is one of those times and it's not going to break everything. We'll see. So I'll try to run it now. All right, so the data is here, and I have the TSV extension and the iris TSV extensions. Can I change? It does change. It does read it every time, and these still work absolutely. So that's a success. So we now are able to, well, actually the app pretty much does exactly the same as before, but now we have access to these data sets, and it's a good setup point to set off from, I guess, for our user to put his own data in here and then read it. So that will be our next part. We'll see how can we get the user files into here. And yeah, I think that. So see you in part 2 of this episode, or whatever you want to call it.